But can you see me on there? That's weird. It is September the 15th, and I'm recording this lesson ostensibly for revision purposes, that when you go back over these lines of Paradise Lost, it can help you revise them, and also for those students who are absent. So Jack, say hello to Jack, everybody. Oh, did you hear that? And Sophie and people who've been off this week. But this is a trial. This may never happen again because it already feels incredibly weird that I'm kind of talking at the camera and not at you lot. Right, so just let's crack on. I thought that I would start, we'll do a few admin-y things first, and then we'll get straight back into the poem. And we should all be ready to start from line 270 today. Especially, that's one of the reasons I made the video last week as a recap on those first 270 lines. So if you haven't prepped this next section, you're in trouble. That means you haven't done your homework. And you'll see that in the classroom there's also other stuff to do. There's the work outside, the lessons here. So that was work. I thought I spelled 2 wrong there. So can everybody make sure that you've had a look at this? And this is work to do on relationships, quotation banks, the kind of bog standard stuff that needs doing so that you get really familiar with these texts. And you'll also see that today's work, so I'm going to give you a worksheet out in a minute, is on here electronically because I know some of you prefer to work electronically rather than handwrite stuff, so we can do a bit of both. So that wasn't work that needed doing for now, it's work to be done. So I think all of that's quite straightforward. You'll see Dean on Thursday, and he is expecting to pick up from line 411. But I don't think he's going to move on with the poem. I think he's going to help you make it talk to the play a bit more, and then back with me on Monday, and I'll pick up from 411 to, I think it's 663. So that's the next bit that you would, you're just trying to prep these. What I'm saying is I don't want the first time you read these lines to be in my lesson. Even if you found it hard, even if you haven't got the whole thing, you're going to have a go before the lesson to get the gist. So another little bit of admin. At the moment, as you know, we still don't have a firm decision on whether you're going to be all back in on Monday or whether we're going to stick to day on, day off. It's looking like day on, day off, because I think for a lot of people, the thought of having so many bodies in college is a little bit unnerving. Personally, I want you all in because I just want to get on and teach you, but it's not about personal choice. What it does mean is that the planning here is still not finalised in terms of what we'll be doing, but I will endeavour, if it's confirmed that we go to day on, day off, to, what we were doing in lockdown and like the first weeks back, setting activities, rounding up at the end. So Dean and I are going to try and do at least one live lesson a week so that you get in contact with us in the classroom and live contact as well. On that note, I'm lying, I won't pick up 413 to 663 on Monday. You will be doing your initial assessment on Monday. And that's what we're going to talk about a bit today. Abby looks perturbed. No, if nothing else, if I have one goal today, it's to make sure that you all feel all right about it.
We didn't know about this before now, did we?
No. In fact, it's quite a recent thing that we do a kind of formal initial assessment. Do you remember you did one in first year on 12th night? You did it on Act 1, Scene 4, 12th night. And it was just a way of me getting to know you through your writing.
I just noticed you on the screen.
Hello, Abby.
What's it going to be on? Is it going to be on Paradise Lost?
It is. It's on Paradise Lost and A Doll's House. It's on what we've done so far. It's on what we're going to do this lesson. Again, that's why I'm recording it. There's going to be a really straightforward question. And all I want you to do is write me an introduction and 1 point. That's it, right? You're not writing a timed essay with no books or anything like that. That's cruel. Yeah, I'm not about being cruel, and I'm not about stressing students out for the sake of it. Life's stressful enough at the moment, isn't it? Right? So basically, if you're sensible and clued in, you will do the homework I've set because that might be helpful. And you will listen in this lesson because that might be helpful. But then you will be a good A-level student by reading that question and going, right, how can I come up with something maybe a bit interesting here? So that was the admin I wanted to do, was talk to you about the work on Classroom and to show you where we're at. Have I also told you that I think we're staying, in fact, I don't think, I know that we're staying with Paradise Lost Doll's House until Christmas. The view was that we would start coursework after half term. We've decided that we'll leave that till after Christmas because with the way the government seem absolutely determined, hell-bent that you lot are sitting exams and they're worth the most. Whereas they might say that coursework isn't. I'd rather take the chance that you're well prepared for the exam. You'll still get good coursework, you'll still do that. But we just felt like this was going to be rushed. So we were just talking about the fact that we haven't watched the Carrie Cracknell DVD. We're like, this is daft. Let's slow this down. If all of this starts to get a bit boring and we're doing too much Doll's House Paradise Lost, we could start to do some coursework lessons running up to Christmas, right? So just, if we do change things, it's not because we're not organised and it's not because we don't know what we're doing, it's because we're trying to evaluate literally what is best for you as we go along. Okay, any questions on any of that? No? Right, okay. So we started the lesson with you reading this essay, and it's a real essay from a student from last year. So remember that this is the kind of question. Oh, has that made my circle go bigger as well? Love brings out the best and worst in mankind. In light of this view, consider ways in which writers portray love. So that's the first thing I want to remind you of, that you're being asked to do two things. Consider the statement for debate, and then look at what the ways in which writers portray love, which might move you on from this kind of statement. You might say, I'll agree with that. Yes, it does. Or, yes, it brings out the best in women and the worst in men, or vice versa. Or, well, that really depends on the kind of love that is being explored. And then what other kinds of love might you want to look at, right? So this question in this part of the exam is challenging. You get an hour and 15 minutes. Good 15 minutes planning, thinking, because you don't have to write reams and reams. As an examiner, I don't like it when I open up a script and it's got like 10 pages. Usually means the student's written the same essay twice. So, what did you like about this student's writing, and what would you try and emulate I don't mean on Monday, I mean in the future?
The use of quotations.
What's good about the use of quotations, Ben?
They are very embedded and numerous.
Yeah. This student is showing really good AO1 understanding, lots of little quotations peppered throughout. So this student this is an A-star response. Am I expecting you all to get A-stars at the end of the course? No. But shall we all aim to get the best mark we can? Yes. So we're not going to look at grade D answers, are we? We're going to look at the best ones to see what we can emulate. Yeah? What else do we like about this answer? Go on, Amelia.
Quite a lot of like context, so like family and things like that. Just kind of strengthen it.
Yeah, remind me what percentage of the mark AO3 context is. It's 50%. Dong, there it is on the board, on the wall. 50%. Remember, that doesn't mean it's 50% of your essay. You're not writing a history essay. Context is going to underpin and support your ideas all of the time. Lovely. Anything, Bex, anything else you liked about this essay?
Comparing.
Right. So if I'm going to use a visual metaphor for this essay, it's this, right? It's the text coming together all the time. You would never just write about one and then write about another, because that doesn't necessarily mean you're making them talk to each other. It's called a sight comparison, and it doesn't mean the same thing. Yeah? You're right, Neve.
Yeah.
Right. I think there's a couple of other things that I'd like you to kind of emulate and borrow. Think of anything? Scarlett? Right. AO5 is there right from the start. Now, AO5 isn't worth masses in this essay, but can you see how it just gives the essay like an authority? So look at this. The power of love reverberates. I didn't burst into song there, I don't know how I stopped myself. I had so many choices as well with the power of love. I can think of at least 3 songs. Moving on, recording, forgot. Reverberates strongly around Paradise Lost, primarily in its presentation of the fall. C.S. Lewis's idea that Adam fell through uxoriousness is supported not only by God the Son, but also by Milton and by Adam. And then we get the rest. Uxoriousness means excessive, sometimes foolish love for one's wife. Seems to have quite a negative connotation. Instantly made me think, is there an opposite to uxoriousness? I'm going to have to look it up now. Thought it would have just come up. Foolishly fond of or submissive to your wife. Pussy whipped or doting. Nice, nice. Who does English language? There's a lot of loaded meaning in there, isn't there? I'm not enjoying that website at all. It doesn't look like there is one, which makes me wonder if the excessive and foolish love for one's husband is just expected. It's just the norm. Isn't that interesting? Okay, all right. Learn something new every day. I know we haven't done the C.S. Lewis bit yet. We haven't really done any AO5 yet. So again, if you can bring some in on Monday, brilliant. But if you can't, it's not the end of the world. I really just want to be able to ascertain, what have you understood so far, and can you make these texts talk to each other? I think there's one other thing that this candidate does really well, which everyone in the room, and it's linked to what I've just said, should be trying to do. This candidate has an impressive vocabulary. They write well. And I think the mistake a lot of students make in coming to college is to believe that the style and level of writing that they're at from GCSE cannot be improved upon. And I'd say it's absolutely one of the things that can be improved upon by being conscious of it, by looking at how some students just structure a sentence. And if you ever read someone else's essay and gone, oh, that's what I was trying to say, well, say it like them, copy it until it becomes your style. There's a difference between copying style and copying ideas. The big difference, okay? So let's try and emulate that a little bit more. I was telling my class this morning, I went swimming last night, and I'm really bad at breaststroke. I only do backstroke. So I do breaststroke when I'm wanting a little kind of nana rest, your head doesn't go under the water. Ooh, glasses. And even as I was swimming, I was thinking, I need to maybe watch some YouTube videos about how to do breaststroke better. To me, I don't know, I don't like this, well, I've always done it like that. Well, I'm 45, I'm not going to get any better now. Well, why not? Just have a go. Mind you, my coordination is poor. It's very, very poor. So we're going to put that essay aside. That's going in our folders. we're going to revisit that when we come to do some essays at home for me. And we are now, she says, without a tab open, going to go to Paradise Lost. You're going to get your homework out, which was your notes. Bex? You can, if you nip along to the English office. Do you know what? It might be easy to go and see if the Chromebook trolley is unlocked next door, because I don't know where the key is for those. They've just arrived. Oh, she's got her glasses on. She means business. All right, so far, Jack, Sophie. Just checking in with Jack and Sophie. Do you need one, Ben? Is that what you're getting one for? For Ben? Just checking. Okay. Oh, I had a horrible thought then that it wasn't recording, but it is because it says finish recording. Who would like to bring me up to speed, remind me what has just been happening? Rhiannon, any thoughts?
Satan has just got into the Garden of Eden and he's just seen Adam and Eve and he's basically just really jealous of them.
That's correct, good. Satan's managed to worm his way into Eden, and I always think I've got wonky glasses, then I remember I've got a wonky face. It's on a slant. And what are Adam and Eve, Josh, what have Adam and Eve been discussing? Right, why does Eve want to go and work on her own?
She thinks work more effectively and get more.
Yeah. So here we have a woman suggesting that working separately might be more beneficial, might reap more rewards. Adam, what is Adam's main objection to Eve going off alone?
I'm not sure.
So what does that tell you about your revision and your notes, what you need to do? Yes, up your game. And go back and watch the video from last week, yeah? Anyone else? Freya? Yeah, he doesn't want to risk her being alone and being tempted. Why else doesn't he want her to go off? He likes her company. Yeah, Josh, is that what you were going to say? Yeah. Just likes hanging around with her, doesn't he? What do they get distracted by, though? Ethan? Each other, and sometimes by some new object, something new that they discover in this wonderful Garden of Eden, and it's like, oh, that's great. So, that was all the... Is that where did we get up to? Oh, 270. I'm getting confused. What else? So remind me, Archie, of this very last bit before the Virgin Majesty of Eve speaks again. What argument is Adam giving that Eve should stay by his side? Can you remember?
Well, he doesn't really see the point in going off and doing separate tasks, and he enjoys the company, and he is conscious of Eve being manipulated by evil.
Yes. Go on. So that very last bit there, what is he saying she has to do?
The two just below 270.
Just above this bit.
So a wife should stay with her husband as he guards her.
Yeah. And it's that, remember I drew your attention where danger or dishonour lurks. So we're going to move on now, and I want us, as we're going through this section, to think about this couple, this normal married couple who just happen to be Adam and Eve in Eden, how Eve starts to we get to this point and Eve doesn't just go, okay, you're right, I'm going to listen to you. She keeps petitioning for her own agency. She wants to go out into Eden alone, perhaps to discover things. Again, I'm using the Dartmouth site here. Please start using it, because as we click on these hyperlinks, it's going to really help us understand the context of this book within the whole epic without us necessarily having to read the entire epic. So, I don't know about you. I don't know if you ever try and persuade boyfriend, girlfriend, brother, sister, mum, dad to do something for you. Mom, it's often a bit like, Mom, best mum in the world. Mum, I love you. Oh, Mum, have I told you how nice you look today? So there's a bit of that here. With sweet composure, she calls Adam offspring of heaven and earth and all earth's Lord, not darling husband or lovely Adam. She actually reminds him, she's kind of, I'm going to keep arguing, but I'm going to remind you that I know my place a little bit. You are all the earth's Lord. And she says, I know about this enemy, because guess what? She was listening when the angel Raphael and Adam were having a conversation about it. Now, we haven't read that bit, but doesn't matter, because here it is. Now, in this section, and let's go to it here in book 8, Raphael gives Adam some very specific advice here. And I want to introduce the theme of love and obedience, that the way you show love in this poem throughout much of history and in society, especially if you're a woman, is by being obedient. Here we see Raphael invent those italic signs that I'm sure many of you have transferred onto your kitchen walls or in your halls. Live, laugh, love. Is it wine time? Yes, it was Raphael that invented it. Be strong, live happy, and love. I'm actually going to get that up there, do you think? Above that whiteboard. Be strong, live happy, and love. It's not bad advice, is it? And I think as a black italic transfer with some butterflies dotted around it, it would look really cool. But first of all, him whom to love is to obey and keep his great command. So do that, but don't forget the big guy. Take heed lest passion sway thy judgment to do aught which else free will would not admit. Right, what's he warning him of there? Take heed lest passion sway thy judgment. Think with your head, not with your penis, said Ben, not me. Go on, you're right.
Like saying that God not let Eve tell you what to do.
Right. Adam, obey God. You might feel passion and love towards Eve, but you don't obey her. And I think that the sexual element you brought in there, Ben, is quite justified, given that they've had conjugal bliss, and bliss is the word that Adam himself has used to refer to their sexual relationship, and we know that is one of the first things that will be affected when the apple is eaten. This, to me, is interesting in terms of the judgment that many women face for steering men down the wrong path because their passions have overcome them. Okay, so it's good, isn't it, to have those little links? And our editor here suggests that Eve has heard this warning, but what if we are meant to think she overheard Adam confess that the passion prompted by touching Eve's beauty makes him feel that Eve is superior to him, even though he knows she is not? We're going to see a little bit further on that even Satan will stand momentarily stupidly good when he looks at Eve's beauty. So Eve's beauty, her outward appearance, has a very, very strong effect on people. Okay. Now, she goes on to say that Satan surely isn't anything to really fear, not capable of death or pain. So his fraud is then thy fear, which plain infers thy equal fear that my firm faith and love can by his fraud be shaken or seduced. And I think she's a bit indignant about this. She's a bit cross. You know, why do you think that my firm faith and love, nice easy little quotation to remember there to nip out, will be shaken? Why do you misthink that about me? Now, what does Adam reply? Well, he replies with healing words. So he understands that he's hurt her. Daughter of God and man, immortal Eve. He wants to reassure her that that's not the reason he wants them to separate, not to separate. So if you've prepped this section, would anyone like to tell me what his argument is here? What does he say, Courtney?
Is it like permeating the divine hierarchy? She is kind of providing the sense that she's going to be more susceptible without his superior presence being there.
Right, there's definitely that sense of hierarchy. He was made first, he's made to rule over her, and it's back to the idea of love and disobedience. Good. Anything else? Josh, any thoughts on this one?
More for Adam.
Yeah, what's Adam's main reason that he gives?
He's saying that he's pushing the idea that traditionally he's the man, so he should be having like protection over her.
That's definitely going to come into it around line 310, this idea of masculinity, definitely. Freya?
Does he also say that she's stronger if it's together?
Yes. Okay, shall we pull it apart a little bit? Because it's quite interesting. I find it interesting. Which I suppose is my job. It'd be pretty sad if I found this boring, wouldn't it? So, okay, he's worried that even though Satan will tempt her and it will be in vain, that this dishonour will upset her. That she will become angry about it there, and anger would resent the offered wrong, though ineffectual found. He's trying to avoid her being upset and hurt. Ben, you're smirking.
Just cringe. You know.
So are you, by saying that, and just please don't swear for me. And Ben's a swearer.
My mum would be watching this.
Your mum will be watching it.
No, I was joking.
Oh, I quite like the idea of your mum watching this lesson. It'd be quite cool. I like your mum.
Yeah, it's just, I like it too.
Good. I'm so glad you said that. Is it convincing? Like,
No, but I don't think it's meant to be.
right, okay. Someone in my last class used an analogy of, it would be like a man saying to his girlfriend, I don't want you to go out wearing that skirt, not because of you, but because I'm worried that other boys would try and hit on you and then you'd be upset by that. Now that is a loose analogy, but you get the sense of where that's kind of coming. It's not you I don't trust, it's those other guys / Satan. And then you'd be upset, wouldn't you? So, he'll hardly dare attempt it while we're together. But here's another reason. Adam basically says that if Satan comes to tempt and attack them, and Adam knows that Eve is watching, is looking on, it will make him stronger, wiser, more watchful. He'll literally be more manly. And if he was ever to kind of be in doubt, the feeling of shame that he would feel in not being able to protect her would raise him to utmost vigour, right? So, and look how the words for the naming of Adam, some good English teaching. So he's now changed from like ruler of all the earth to domestic Adam in his care and matrimonial love. This is Adam the husband. Does that mean that we perhaps do believe it a bit more? We are a bit more convinced he's speaking now not as ruler of the earth, but as her husband. However, Eve is still not having it. So,
That bit before things when Helmer goes on about Nora being put in danger to go and save her.
I think it definitely could. Yeah, I'm glad your brain's ticking on the AO4 there, because that's what you need to be doing all the time. It's like, how could this speak to this other text? And remember, we're looking for contrasts as well as comparisons. So it's a similar idea, but in the play. Anyone want to offer anything on this next section? What does she counter with? Scarlett, any thoughts?
Is that like God didn't mean them to live in fear and have to be strong within themselves to resist it?
Yeah, definitely. And how link that to the setting? What does she actually add to that? Not just that they have to be strong enough not to live in fear, but that if they live in fear, they will not be. Yeah, and the last line there, 341, and Eden were no Eden, thus exposed. She says, how are we happy? Still in fear of harm. This can't really be paradise, can it? If we can't trust one another and if we can't feel like we can repel Satan. What does she also say to the idea that she will be angered and affronted by his temptation? A bit I've highlighted there. What does she say? Neve, any thoughts? Adam's worried that Eve will be upset by him tempting her. But Eve says this foul esteem turns foul on himself. So he'll be feeling bad about it. It's turned foul on himself.
The devil out in her, she feels stronger than her.
Yes, good. So she says, don't worry about me. Why would I be upset by him doing that? It's just going to make him look even more bad. In fact, she says that she will gain double honour by being able to deal with this. Where will that double honour come from? Who is our witness?
God on Adam.
Yeah, or for herself, her own self-esteem, or from Adam, and then from God, who she knows. Interesting here how she knows he's ever watching, but later on after she's eaten the apple, she's going to be hoping he maybe turned away at that point. So much. Right, so she chat, frail is our happiness, if this be so, and Eden were no Eden, thus exposed. I want you to maybe think here about the revelation that Nora has about her home, how it isn't this lovely family home anymore, but it becomes a doll's house. It's something that has no meaning to her anymore because she doesn't know who she is in it. And in this instance, Adam kind of doubts and questions Eve's identity and integrity within this setting. Let's give you a second to write those notes down. Abby, have you got yours on your Kindle? So are you annotating it on there? That's interesting. Is it working out all right?
Yeah, so maybe just highlight it as a one.
Can you print them off from that as well? Oh, woman! I don't imagine.
Always a great way to start.
Yeah, in the middle of any argument with your spouse. Oh, woman! Best are all things as the will of God ordained them, his creating hand, nothing imperfect or deficient left of all that he created, much less man, or aught that might his happy state secure from outward force. Eve, everything is perfect. God made it. So, what does our editor tell us? This idea that that it wasn't entirely perfect, because if it were, God would not have had to create Eve in the first place, because his single imperfection was his loneliness.
Not his blatant misogyny.
Nah, that's standard. That's standard. And what did Anna say? Anna had something. She said, so Eve has only ever been made as like an afterthought, and she's been made to serve somebody else.
Didn't all the animals, they'd have males and females as well, wouldn't there? Being two of each one, or was it just one of? Was she the first female of all of the animals possible?
It's almost like it's creation myth.
Yeah, it's obviously it's not real.
It feels counterintuitive to question the logic.
It's very real to many, many people, and we will simply, that simply is a fact, that it is real to many people. Yes, there were, she's the first female human, but not the first female animal.
So you must have thought about it before that, wasn't it? Because if you've made all these other females and different animals, it wouldn't have just been like, oh yeah, and humans
He
as
was
well.
like, I can adapt this idea.
I can make a whole new idea.
That's quite an interesting point. I've not thought of that before.
Because they all came first, didn't they? So you can't just say,
Well,
oh,
maybe because, maybe he wasn't, maybe, is there anyone in the room who knows the Bible a bit better than me at this point? I think maybe the idea was that Eden was just made for man, for one man, for Adam.
The theology on it is that that God always knew, because God exists beyond time and space, the idea is that he knew what was going to happen anyway, so his intentions are a bit murky, because which at the epistemic distance, humans can never try and rationalise what God's intentions were, and to do that is to defeat the point of studying theology in the first place. That's the logic of...
What is the time period?
So you just
Is
can't-
that what Eve was made straight after Adam, like from Adam's rib or something? Yeah.
Not straight after, no, he had to have time to mope about a bit. Yeah, right. So remember, at this point, we've got to do a little bit of double think, right? So on the one hand, God creates humans with free will, gives us complete autonomy to make our own decisions, and he gives us reason and he gives us logic. We're going to come a lot more to that later on and link it to kind of Milton's beliefs on that subject. On the other hand, he knows that the fall is predestined. He knows that it will happen. So he puts the tree of knowledge in there and he says, don't eat it, but he knows they will. So that causes issues to arise, as in, well, why did he do that in the first place? Either don't give them free will or don't put the tree there. Why kind of create this test, if you like? Now, what I imagine that Christians would say is that, well, that's the test that's kind of ongoing, is that you keep showing your love and your faith to God, even though we are humans and we are flawed. We might be made in God's image, but we are not God-like.
Which is the point of Jesus coming down to earth in the first place.
Yes.
Because Jesus was always destined to come to earth, because God has reasonings for things that people can never understand, apparently.
That was just like defeats any argument anyone who's non-religious.
Yeah, well, that's exactly why, because otherwise, if you don't have faith that you can't understand it, you have faith in the fact that you will never understand
Yeah.
it, otherwise the entire thing falls apart.
Yeah, your faith is based a lot on the idea that it's okay because there is a bigger thing than me that's got it covered.
You
And
have
I
to be
don't-
responsible.
I almost don't have to. Well,
Because you can't prove that it's not faith, is it? You're just being told, just believe in fact.
Yeah,
Well,
you-
flat earthers, they have faith, don't they? Maybe that's already been,
well,
sorry, flat earthers.
I wouldn't conflate people of faith with flat earthers. I think that that's very problematic
No, I'm just saying,
territory.
like,
But as in,
some things because you can't tell the meaning of life.
right, you can
That's
disprove a
all.
flat earther using science.
Yeah.
Whereas you can't disprove somebody's faith in an idea with
No.
another idea.
Yeah, and most Christians, most now, would say that this story of the creation story is just that. It was a story to explain things, but they will say that still that God was behind things.
Right, yeah. So there are people who believe that this is genuinely what happened, and then there are Christians who say, of course this couldn't have happened, but it's an analogy that helps us understand our place in the world, and it helps us understand why as humans we are flawed and why we sin, and we basically are going to spend our lives trying to be better than that and be good and serve God. And there's nothing really wrong with that, is there? Trying to live a nice, good life and do good things in the world. So some people do it just because they want to, some people do it because they want to and they happen to be Christians, and some people will be hypocrites and do it because they are Christians but not live that life fully. And that's where all the issues of religion and that people have around it, come from, I think. Oh, that got deep for a day, is it? Tuesday afternoon?
Just change the subject.
I'm glad you did this on the one that's being recorded, by the way, thanks.
If God created man and woman, then He's created male and female. Does God gender neutral?
God is,
Does not have a-
God is flawless and can never be.
You don't know that, Ben.
So He's not.
You don't know that.
Well, no, it says.
It's the Son and the Holy Spirit, so it's not like a male and female, he's just got two forms.
Well, no, he hasn't got two forms. They are all God and not God at the same
Yeah, but
time.
are there like three forms of God?
It's like.
I tell you what I do know is that you've all got an exam next May on this very question. So,
I'm just gonna go online.
On His actual question.
on this poem.
Oh,
So, here's the point. Here's the point. Yes, there may be an element of predeterminism, but God has still given you free will. And we're back to the idea of
Can you have free will if everything's being planned? Like, how is that?
this is why I both love and hate teaching Paradise Lost. Can you have free will if everything is pre-planned?
So now you know what you're gonna do. So,
Depends who you ask.
It depends who you ask. Absolutely.
maybe if it's pre-planned, that's
I mean, in terms of choice, how much, like, seriously, don't just kind of go yes or no. Just have a think about this. How much actual choice do you lot have in your lives right now? Like,
You choose what colour face mask you wear, you can choose.
yeah, but you can't really choose not to wear a face mask, or you can't choose to like kill someone. Because I mean, you could, but there's consequences.
right, so you know what your choices are and you know what the consequences are.
Is it free will with consequences or without consequences?
Well, what world do we live in now? Do you live in a world free of consequences? So, but let's think about, okay, you lot potentially are all going to leave college next summer. What are your choices?
Uni, gap, apprentice, and
So,
road song.
Right, so you either stay in education, join the capitalist workforce, or drop out. Do you have much option? When you start thinking of it like that, it can feel quite narrow, can't it? You can choose how to drop out, drugs or drink or rock and roll. You can choose where to go to uni, and you can choose, perhaps, what job to have, if there is one for you at the end of all of this.
Just depends on what you're doing. You have nothing. We're giving the illusion of free will, but in reality we don't actually.
Right.
You become a hippie
Yeah,
who
but that's
doesn't live by the man.
That's a different thing from the theological free will. That's
Okay. Shall we move on? I feel like this got a little bit beyond me very quickly. Now,
Is it important to point out as well that Adam and Eve at this point, according to a lot of Christian scholars, they would say that Adam and Eve didn't have free will because free will is actually just the option to sin, and at this point they hadn't discovered sin through eating the apple. So, in terms of they didn't have free will because free will wasn't a concept. Because if God's predetermined plan is for humans to just worship Him, which is the reasoning given in the Bible for Him creating humans. Therefore, free will will always be God's plan will always be followed because the end result is everybody devoting their lives to God. Adam and Eve at this point are doing that by living the purest life or whatever. So, St. Augustine said that Adam's and Eve's choice to sin affected our free choice, and that humans are left unable to resist sin because of this original sin. And then Christians will say afterwards, such as Milton, that only through Jesus and following Jesus, people can be freed from free will by following God and therefore following His plan. So it's a self-fulfilling thing.
yes. As often with Ben, I just go, yes. No, I think that is important. If that's just kind of either gone over your head or made you kind of brain pop a little bit, we will remember what we're doing at this point is getting through the content of the poem so we understand what's happening, and then we're going to come back and revisit. So we're going to revisit this idea of choice within the frameworks they exist, and that's an important one to think about, that there wasn't even a framework apart from obeying God, which is what I've mentioned, compared with the frameworks that exist in Norwegian bourgeois society that limit Nora's choices. However, also seeing the connection between the Christian beliefs that have informed so many of our moralistic and legalistic viewpoints in society that restrain people anyway. Abby, what were you going to say?
Oh, it was just like back to like before all that. I was just thinking, is it free will like dystopian now? Because like the only societies where it is like free will is like the ones that have been like destroyed.
And that have to rebel. Someone actually said to me last year, is Eden like the ultimate dystopia because Adam and Eve at this point have no choice but to just serve God and they think it's all lovely, but they're not doing it kind of consciously, they're just doing it because they have been told to.
They haven't been told to, it was literally the reason they were created.
But they have been told to as well. I mean, we've just seen that in the whole discussion with Raphael.
Yeah.
In this poem, anyway, in this poem. Woo, la la. Right, where are we? 20 to 4, man. I thought we did finish this ages ago.
It's philosophy.
It is philosophy, yeah. Philosophy is really anything where you start thinking about and challenging and questioning what's in front of you.
At the end of the lesson, you've just still got nowhere because there's no right or wrong answer. You haven't got an answer at the end.
Yeah, but you've been involved in a process of discovery. Right, okay, where am I? Where on earth am I?
We haven't got to the bit about it being erect yet. What's funny about that?
Yeah, Courtney, grow up, Courtney. God left free the will, for what obeys reason is free. And this is what we needed to get to with Milton later on, is like, who decides what reason is? And that was a big kind of debate at the time anyway. Alert. See, Courtney's nothing funny. Stay alert, lest by some fair appearing good surprised she dictate false. So this idea that it probably wouldn't even be Eve's fault because Satan would disguise himself. We're back to 12th night and the beauteous walls that contain poison within. Do you remember that? See what I did there? Link the text. Like I know what I'm doing.
Synopsis.
Wait, that's a good point. In this exam, can you only link it to Paradise Lost and Adult?
Yes. Do not link it to 12th night. I've had students do that before.
And then Satan came out was just like Toby. No, what's he got? What's the
An android?
No.
the
Clown?
No, okay.
Feste.
Very, very.
Okay.
There's one in the Bible that says, at the end of time, man will be weird man.
Is there something in the Bible that said? I'll answer that question later. Right. Again, Adam argues that if they stay together, it will be better for them. I like this little quotation. 366, trial will come unsought. Because I think that's a nice idea to consider about any marriage or union or long-term relationship. You are going to face trials. What Torvald doesn't know is that his marriage pre-play has endured a trial, and Nora has dealt with it on her own. She's solved it. She's saved his life. And here, I think this is one that, again, an important bit. He says to Eve, if you want to prove that you are of firm faith and love, that you are constant and that you can be trusted, do you know how you show that first? By being obedient. Wouldst thou approve thy constancy? Prove first thy obedience. Do as you're told. Which is pretty much the mantra that men have been saying to women for centuries. Do as you're told. Do not transgress. Do not step out of your box. Do not challenge society.
Did that come down then from Darwinism? Because it was around that time, wasn't it? Did science just...
Darwinism is Ibsen. It's after this.
Yeah, I know, but because it's been going on for centuries, hasn't it? Like, women have just seemed to put up with it for quite a long time. For a long, long time. But how did that suddenly change so much?
Well, some things have to happen in order that women who have the freedom almost to be able to stop putting up with it. And one of the biggest constraints is financial. You know, if you are a woman who's completely financially dependent on a man, which most women even now still are, there's a lot of victims of domestic abuse who one of the chief ways that they are controlled is that they have no access to the money in a family. So even if they wanted to try and leave, they wouldn't have the means to. I don't know if you saw recently that, I think it was GNER, were working with crisis centres to allow women to have free train tickets to get them from their homes to a refuge. So, because that's often, so I mean, that's 2020, right? Also, we know this from our dystopian study, what happened in the 60s to liberate women. Yeah, but to even prevent us getting to that stage, pill. So when you have a sexual liberation, when women are not literally stuck by their bodies in situations, then things can start to happen. But the other main thing, what's the big difference between the majority of women now and, what are we, 2020? Yeah, even 100 years ago? Education. You know? Listen, you know, you've got, I was going to say older relatives, they don't even need to be older. You have got, you know, men and women who, they're quite happy with the status quo. They're quite happy that the man has the money and he gives her an allowance and that's the way it's always been, and she irons his shirts and cooks his dinner. People don't like change. So for many women, they maybe didn't like the situation they're in, but if you can't conceive of it being different, you will just put up with something, because what are you going to change it with? And so you have to have people who start to break the mould. You have to have women who suddenly will go and live separately on their own. You have to see female lesbian couples living independently. And those people who are the groundbreakers, they suffer, but they pave the way for other people. In the same way that men need to see Eddies being full-time dads and staying at home and opening up society to all the different possibilities, because men suffer from all of this BS as much as women do, except the men usually still have the power more readily than the women to change their situation if they want to.
It's also a product of capitalism, because you can't have run a capitalist system. You need an underclass of some sort, but you also can't just say that 50% of the available workforce can't be in work, otherwise
Yeah.
it's just not going to work. So it's no coincidence that the push for women's rights came about as capitalism developed, because change is only allowed to happen at the moment when it's profitable to happen. You see that with Black Lives Matter. As soon as it became profitable for companies to say Black Lives Matter, they started saying Black Lives Matter. See with Nike, for example, being with all the athletes. But 10 years ago it wasn't profitable to do that. They wouldn't have dreamed to do that. Change only happens when it's profitable.
And like with environmentalists, they say it's more expensive, so okay, people will be out of work if they change more environment to these sustainable products. It would be
That's why they're not going to save the environment. There's absolutely no. They will milk it dry, and then when we run out of everything, they'll go, oh, we should change something, because then they'll run out of stuff. But the oil companies will go into renewable energy and stuff, so it'll all remain the same. How you miss me, Julie?
You certainly make our English lessons broad and diverse. Ooh, we covered a lot of stuff there. So spake the Freudian slip, the patriarch of mankind. Right, so finally, Eve, off she goes. Oh, because Adam says, go, for thy state not free, absence thee more. He doesn't want her just to hang around if she doesn't feel like she's free with him. Right? So go, off you go. And off she goes, the weaker sex. She's compared to all these goddesses. Adam looks after her. He looks longingly as she goes, but too late. Oh, much deceived, much failing, hapless Eve, of thy presumed return event perverse, thou never from the hour in paradise foundest either sweet repast or sound repose. Everything's from that moment. So what is the greatest act of disobedience? Is it Eve disobeying her husband, or disobeying God in eating the fruit? That's something we might want to think about. For now, I am going to end this recording. Woo! Hope you enjoyed that. If you are watching this because you were off poorly, I'm sure that's cheered you right up. What you need to do now is complete the worksheets that are in Classroom and prep the next section for next week, up to line 633.